Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are stepping into the future.
Just a little bit.
Specifically, today is Monday, January 26, 2026. It's Republic Day here in India, and if you're just, glancing at the headlines, it looks like the standard celebration.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the parades, the flypasts, all the usual spectacle.
The president taking the salute.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stack of documents we have on the desk today, well, it tells a very different story.
It really does. We have intelligence reports from Swiss military think tanks, draft legislation, some very heated diplomatic cables. And what they show is that the parade isn't just a show.
It's a cover.
In a way, yeah. It's a cover for a country that has, fundamentally changed in just the last 12 months.
Changed how?
We're looking at a nation that just fought a war, a real high-intensity conflict, signed a trade deal that's been frozen for nearly 20 years, and is also, tearing itself apart internally over caste, education, and employment.
That is a heavy lineup for a Monday morning. Before we peel back those layers, though, a quick mandatory intro.
Let's do it.
You are listening to CLAT Tribe.
So let's orient you, the learner. We're analyzing the 77th Republic Day celebrations, but we're doing it through the lens of three big pillars. First, the hidden war of Operation Sindoor.
Right. Then, the EU Free Trade Agreement finally getting done.
And finally, the domestic firestorm around the new VBG-Ramji Act.
Let's start right on the Kartavya path. The theme this year is Vande Mataram, celebrating 150 years of the song. President Draupadi Murmu is there, and she confers the Ashoka Chakra on Group Captain Shubhranshu Shukla.
Which is a big deal. Usually these awards are posthumous, or for counterinsurgency ops.
But Shukla is different.
Very different. He's the first Indian to set foot on the International Space Station. That's the soft power image India wants to project. A spacefaring, peaceful democracy. It's inspirational.
It is. But while everyone is looking up, there was some very heavy hardware rolling down the street right behind him.
And that hardware points to a much darker, much more terrestrial story.
Exactly. While the astronaut represents the future, the tanks and missiles, they represent the very recent past.
You're talking about Operation Sindoor.
Yeah, I've seen the name popping up in defense blogs, but for the listener who hasn't been tracking every single border skirmish,
Yeah.
can we unpack what actually happened? Because the parade featured the Bhairav Battalion, the Suryaastra rocket launchers.
And these aren't just prototypes anymore.
Nah.
They're battle-tested. We've got a report here from the Swiss Center for Military History and Perspective Studies, the CHPM. It is a fascinating, blow-by-blow account of a conflict from May 2025.
Less than a year ago.
Less than a year. And this was not a skirmish.
So what triggered it?
The narrative starts on May 7th, 2025. Indian strike formations, Rafales and Mirage 2000Is penetrated Pakistani airspace. And here's the key detail the Swiss report highlights. They went in at low altitude.
Low altitude. That's incredibly dangerous. You're exposed to everything.
It is. But it suggests they were after precision. They wanted to hit specific tactical targets without, triggering a nuclear escalation that a high-altitude bombing run might risk.
Okay, so they went in low. What was the Pakistani response?
It was overwhelming. The report uses the term counteroffensive involving over 300 drones.
300. That's a swarm attack.
It essentially was. We're talking Sangar-armed drones, Yeehaw 3rd, suicide drones, all mixed in with their JF-17 fighters. They basically threw the kitchen sink at the Indian formations.
Just to overwhelm the air defenses by sheer volume.
Exactly. It's a nightmare scenario for air defense. You have cheap suicide drones clogging the radar while the jets come in behind them.
Did it work?
Well, Pakistan claimed they shot down 6 Indian platforms, including 3 Rafales.
Did they, though?
The Indian Air Force never confirmed the losses. Their statement just said the pilots were safe, which is,
Oof.
a very carefully worded phrase.
A non-denial denial.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But here's where the narrative shifts and why the parade today is so significant. The Swiss report says that despite that initial swarm on May 7th, India achieved air superiority by May 10th.
It's just 3 days later.
Just 3 days.
How do you flip the script from swarmed by 300 drones to air superiority in 72 hours?
Integration and technology. The report credits the S-400 air defense system for basically creating a no-fly zone.
Just shut down the swarm.
It shut it down. And once the sky was clear, India launched this heavy suppression campaign using BrahMos, Scalp-PEG, and Rampage missiles. They were hitting targets 200 kilometers deep inside Pakistan.
Wow.
With pinpoint accuracy.
So when we see the Argentang or those missile launchers on the parade ground today, the message isn't, we might use these.
No. The message is, we just used these and we won. It is a flex. A definitive military flex.
And here's the paradox, and I know you love a good diplomatic paradox look, who's sitting in the VIP box applauding this very hardware.
European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
Right. And they're sitting there smiling, watching Russian-made Su-30 MKIs
and MiG-29s, yeah.
fly over.
Yeah.
Aircraft that use Russian tech, used in Operation Sindoor, and the EU has sanctioned Russia back to the Stone Age over Ukraine. Isn't this awkward?
It's incredibly awkward visually, but diplomatically. It's pure business.
They're not there for the parade.
They're there for the signature. They're there for the free trade agreement.
The FTA. We've been talking about this deal since 2007.
I think I was in high school in 2007.
Almost 2 decades. The negotiations completely froze between 2014 and 2022. It seemed dead in the water.
But our sources in the Commerce Ministry confirmed the deal was finally concluded this past Friday. They're going to announce it officially tomorrow at the summit.
So why now? Why does Europe suddenly hold its nose about the Russian jets and just sign the paper?
Because the world has become unstable. President von der Leyen was quoted in one of our cables saying, "A successful India makes the world more stable."
So they need a reliable partner.
They need a reliable economic partner that isn't China and isn't America. They're hedging their bets. And this is a comprehensive deal: security, defense, energy, mobility.
Speaking of hedging bets, the guest list of people sending congratulations today is interesting. You have President Xi Jinping talking about the dragon and elephant dancing together.
A lovely image, except the last time they danced was in Galwan in 2020, and it certainly wasn't a waltz.
Right. And we have Donald Trump talking about the oldest and largest democracies. But the most surprising one for me was Canada.
Canada. I thought we were still in a deep freeze after the 2023 allegations.
We were. But there's a new prime minister, Mark Carney. He replaced Trudeau, and he is pivoting hard. He's expected to visit in March.
That is a fast turnaround, a total reset.
Yep. The briefing mentions deals on uranium and AI. He's basically saying, let's forget the last 3 years and do business.
Okay, so if I'm summing up the external view of India on this Republic Day, we fought a high-tech war and won. We signed a 20-year-old trade deal with Europe, and even our biggest critics are coming back to the table.
Internationally, India is looking like a fortress.
Externally, yes. But if you turn the camera around and look inside the country, the picture is much more fractured.
That is a fair assessment. While the diplomats are shaking hands, there's this fierce debate brewing over the new Rural Employment Act.
You're talking about the VBG-RAMG Act?
Which I have to say is quite a mouthful compared to MG and Reggie.
It stands for Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Gramin Act.
Catchy. So this is the replacement for MG and Reggie, which has been a lifeline for rural India for decades.
It is. And the government is pitching this as a massive upgrade. Union Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan is out there arguing that it increases the work entitlement from 100 days to 125.
Which sounds like a clear win, right? More days, more money.
On paper, absolutely. He also says it removes disentitlement provisions, making it easier to claim unemployment allowances. But we have a critique here from the economist Jean Drèze.
And Drèze is famous for reading the fine print.
Always. And he argues this act is actually a trap.
How can 125 days of work be a trap?
It's all about how you get those days. Drèze points to Section 5.1 of the new act. He calls it the switch-off clause.
Okay, a switch-off clause, what does that do?
So under the old law, MGN-REGA, the guarantee was universal. If you lived in rural India and wanted work, the government legally had to give it to you.
A right to work.
A right to work. But under Section 5.1 of the new act, the central government can now notify where the guarantee applies.
So they can say, this guarantee applies in District A, but sorry, not in District B.
Precisely. It stops being a universal right and becomes a targeted scheme. And that connects to the money. The old system was demand-driven.
If people asked for work, the government had to find the budget.
Right. The new system relies on normative allocations.
Normative allocations. That sounds like accountant speak for a budget cap.
You nailed it. It means the budget is decided beforehand. If the money runs out, the work just stops. Doesn't matter how high the demand is.
So in a drought year, when everyone needs work, the money could just hit a wall.
That's the fear. And then you layer on the digital aspect. The act doubles down on digital systems for attendance and payment.
Which we have seen fail before.
Repeatedly. Wages going to the wrong digital wallets, internet outages. Critics say you're just excluding the poorest people who can't navigate that system.
It feels like a rebranding exercise. You take a right to work, turn it into a government scheme, give it a shiny new name.
But you actually dilute the legal protection underneath. That's the core of the criticism. It's the difference between being a citizen with a right and a beneficiary receiving a favor.
That is a powerful distinction. And this tension between rights and regulation, it seems to be spilling over into education, too, with the new UGC regulations.
This one is fascinating because this policy has managed to anger literally everyone. The University Grants Commission released its 2026 regulations on equity and caste discrimination.
And I read about the city magistrate in Bareilly, Alankar Agnihotri. He resigned over them.
He did. He called them black laws.
Why? What's his argument?
He represents the general category view. He argues the rules are biased against them and can be weaponized. Specifically, the final text removed a clause that was in the draft, a clause that protected people against false complaints.
So the fear is a student files a false complaint, and a professor gets punished anyway because there's no safety valve.
Right, that it disrupts the social fabric. But then look at the other side. You have anti-caste activists like IRS Officer Nethrapal. They are furious too.
But for the opposite reason.
For the exact opposite reason. They think the rules are too weak. Cosmetic, even.
How so?
They argue the regulations fail to address where the discrimination really happens. In oral exams and interviews.
The subjective stuff.
Exactly. Written exams are anonymous. Interviews are face-to-face. That's where bias creeps in. They say these rules are just window dressing that doesn't stop systemic exclusion.
So one side sees a draconian law that will be abused, and the other sees a toothless tiger that won't solve anything.
And the result is chaos. A researcher from BHU has already filed a writ petition in the Supreme Court. So while soldiers march in perfect unison on Kartavya Path, students and professors are heading to court.
It really highlights the duality of 2026. Externally, this monolithic strength. Internally, we're arguing over the basic definitions of fairness and opportunity.
That's the classic definition of a nation in transition. The hardware is modernizing faster than the social contract.
Before we wrap up, I want to hit a few quick updates from the rest of the stack.
Let's do a rapid fire.
First, grim news from Kolkata.
A massive fire in a warehouse in Anandpur. 7 feared dead. A reminder that while we build space stations, our basic urban fire safety is still lagging.
Moving to the gig economy.
Karnataka's making a move. They're setting up a gig workers' welfare board.
How are they funding it?
With a transaction levy. A 1 to 1.5% levy on every ride or order, paid by the aggregator platform.
That's going to be a model for the rest of the country. If that works, everyone will want it. Finally, sports. Hockey.
The Hockey India League has a winner. Vedanta Kalinga Lancers beat the Ranchi Royals 3-2, a real nail-biter.
And cricket.
Not so tight. Bihar hammered Manipur by 568 runs to win the Ranji Trophy play final.
568 runs. It's not a win, that's a demolition.
It's a statement.
So, looking at the whole picture today, the pomp, the shadow of war, the handshake with Europe, and these deep internal arguments, how do we synthesize this for the listener?
I think the theme is the contrast between hard power and internal friction. We have successfully projected hard power. Operation Sindoor proved the military capability. The EU deal proves the diplomatic clout. The world accepts India as a major power. But internally, the state is struggling with the mechanics of its duty to citizens. Whether it's the switch-off clause in the Employment Act or the polarization over UGC rules, there's a real tug-of-war over how the state manages equity.
It raises a provocative thought for you, the listener. As India cements its place as a global power, we're seeing a lot of rebranding of old schemes. MGN-REGIA becomes VBG-RAM-G. Old trade talks get repackaged. The question is, how does a nation balance the political need to rebrand for credit against the actual need for structural reform that solves the boring, gritty problems of poverty and discrimination? Is the rebranding hiding the cracks, or is it fixing them?
That's the question to ponder.
Thank you for listening to CLAT Tribe.